He had nothing left, no home, no family, and just $8 in his pocket. That was all he owned in the world. But when he saw a stranger in need, he didn't hesitate. He gave away the only thing standing between him and hunger. What he didn't know was that the man he helped wasn't just any stranger. And what happened after this single act of kindness would flip his entire world upside down. Could a homeless man's last $8 really change everything? The city never noticed him. Every morning, people rushed past as if he were invisible, just another forgotten man sitting by the corner of a broken street lamp. His clothes were worn, his shoes nearly falling apart, but his eyes still carried a quiet strength. This was James, a man who once had dreams like everyone else, but life had stripped him down to nothing more than a cardboard sign and a battered backpack. Every day was a fight for survival. He gathered loose change, stretched it for a meal, and prayed the night would be kind. Yet, despite the cold stares and whispers, James never let bitterness claim him. There was still a part of him that believed kindness mattered. Even if the world rarely returned it, on this particular afternoon, the sky was gray, the wind biting, and James's pockets held only $8 crumpled, the last of what he had. Enough for a warm meal, maybe even a small coffee to keep him going through the night. As he walked past the busy street, he spotted a man struggling by the curb. The stranger fumbled with his wallet, clearly distressed, his face pale with frustration. People passed by, ignoring him, too absorbed in their own lives to care. James slowed, watching. Something inside him stirred the instinct to help, even when he had nothing left to give. He didn't yet know that this moment, this simple choice, would become the turning point of his life. James stood still for a moment, gripping the $8 in his pocket as the cold wind whipped through the busy street. He could have kept walking. No one expected him to stop. People didn't even meet his eyes anymore. But watching that stranger, he felt something an echo of the man he used to be. Someone who believed in lending a hand, no matter how small. The man by the curb looked desperate. His wallet slipped from his shaking hands, scattering coins across the pavement. A few people glanced over but quickly turned away as if helping was a burden. James bent down, gathering the loose change and handing it back. "Here," he said softly. The man looked startled, almost ashamed that it was a homeless stranger who noticed him. Then came the harder choice. The man muttered something about needing bus fare and food, but realizing his card wouldn't work. James felt the edges of his $8 pressing against his fingers inside his coat pocket. $8. That was survival. One meal, maybe two if he stretched it. His stomach growled, reminding him of how long it had been since he'd eaten. But then he thought of the countless times he had been invisible, begging for just a few coins, hoping someone would see his humanity. And now here was a chance to give what he never received. Slowly, he pulled out the bills and pressed them into the man's hand. "It's all I've got," James whispered, "but maybe it'll help." The stranger's eyes widened. He looked at James as if unsure whether to accept, but James simply closed his fingers around the money and stepped back. No expectation, no hesitation, just quiet dignity. The man stammered a thank you, his voice breaking. James nodded, then walked away. He didn't linger for gratitude. He didn't even turn back. His mind was already on the night ahead, how he would manage with nothing left. Hunger clawed at his gut, but in a strange way, his heart felt lighter. Still, doubts haunted him. Was it foolish to give away everything? Would he regret it when the cold crept in and the ache of emptiness grew sharper? Yet under those doubts, a small spark glowed inside him hope. Maybe, just maybe, doing the right thing still mattered in a world that had forgotten him. James found a quiet spot under a bridge as the city lights flickered on. He sat with his backpack against the concrete wall, listening to the echo of cars above. The wind cut through the gaps, but he wrapped himself tighter and closed his eyes. What James didn't know was that the man he had helped wasn't just another passerby. He wasn't another struggling soul. He carried a secret powerful enough to change everything. And tonight, that secret would come back to find James. The next morning, James woke to the chill of dawn. His stomach ached with hunger, but there was a strange peace in his heart. He stretched, rubbed the sleep from his eyes, and prepared himself for another day of being unseen. As he rose, a sleek black car pulled up near the bridge. Its polished surface stood out against the gray streets, and James instinctively stepped back. The tinted window slid down, and out stepped the very man he had helped the day before. But he looked different, confident, composed, and dressed in a tailored suit that spoke of wealth and power. James froze. The $8 he had given away still lingered in his memory, the taste of sacrifice fresh on his lips. What was this man doing here? The stranger walked toward him, his footsteps measured, his gaze steady. Then, with a calm but commanding tone, he said, "You don't know me, do you?" James shook his head, unsure of what to say. The man smiled faintly, his eyes softening. "Yesterday, you gave me the last of what you had. You didn't ask who I was. You didn't hesitate. Do you realize what that means?" Confusion washed over James. He opened his mouth, but no words came. The man reached into his coat and handed James an envelope. James hesitated, then slowly opened it. Inside was a stack of bills thicker than anything he had ever held in his life. His hands trembled as the truth began to unfold. The stranger leaned closer, lowering his voice. "I'm not just some passerby. I own businesses across this city. I'm a billionaire. And yesterday, you reminded me of something money can't buy: human kindness. Now it's my turn to give back." James felt the ground shift beneath him. The world, which had ignored him for so long, suddenly seemed to open. His simple act of kindness had led him to a moment he never could have imagined. James stared at the envelope in his trembling hands, unable to breathe. For years he had lived as a shadow in the city, ignored and dismissed. Now, in an instant, the world felt like it had tilted on its axis. The billionaire's words echoed in his mind. "It's my turn to give back." For the first time in a long while, James felt seen. Not as a burden, not as a statistic, but as a human being whose choice had mattered. His kindness, an act that had left him hungry and cold, was returning to him in a way he never expected. The man placed a hand on James's shoulder. "This isn't charity," he said firmly. "This is an investment in someone who still believes in humanity, even when the world gave him nothing." Tears stung James's eyes. He thought about the nights spent on sidewalks, the countless faces that had looked away, and the weight of hopelessness he had carried for so long. And yet, through it all, he had chosen kindness. That one decision had opened a door he never thought possible. The car door opened behind them. The billionaire gestured for James to join him. "Come with me. Let's change your story." As James stepped into the car, he realized this moment was bigger than him. It was proof that even the smallest act of selflessness can spark something extraordinary. Because sometimes the world notices. Sometimes fate listens. And sometimes one man's last $8 can rewrite his destiny. And the question remains, how many lives could change if we chose kindness, even when it costs us everything?